Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Tristan Rallings, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraftman Damien Gainey. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families who love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If you are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of the more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember tribute to Private Robert Alexander Smith. Smith was born in 1884 in Crudene, New South Wales, the son of William and Matilda Smith. He attended school in the town and later became a labourer in the district. In November 1916, Smith was successful in enlisting in the Australian Imperial Force, having previously been rejected on medical grounds. He trained in Australia for a brief period and then sailed from Sydney on the transport ship Austerley in February 1917. After arriving in England in April, he continued his training for several months. He crossed the English Channel and joined his unit, the 2nd Australian Infantry Battalion, in Belgium in early October. When Smith arrived, his battalion had taken part in the heavy fighting known as the Third Battle of Ypres. Since entering battle in late September, the battalion had lost 1/3 of its strength as casualties. The battalion moved into reserve areas and remained near Ypres over the winter months, alternating between periods of training and time in the front lines. In January 1918, Smith contracted a skin infection and was evacuated to hospital, where he remained until the end of March. In mid-March 1918, German forces launched what was to be their last major assault of the war. Known as the German Spring Offensive, it aimed to capture the important rail hub of Amiens. Many Australian units were rushed south from Belgium to the Somme River sector. The 2nd Battalion remained in the Ypres sector until the end of March, moving south to the Somme on the first day of April. Smith rejoined his unit in France in early April. He and some other men of his unit were loading the battalion's gear and supplies onto trains near Amiens when German aircraft bombed the railway station. Struck by bomb fragments and wounded, Smith was taken to a casualty clearing station. 2 days later, on the 13th of April 1918, he died of his wounds. He was 33 years old. Today, Robert Smith remains lay buried in Montpeval British Cemetery. In 1920, Robert's older brother George wrote to his local Member of Parliament to inquire when his brother's personal belongings would arrive in Australia. In fact, Smith's personal effects had been sent home, bound for Australia on the steamship Virunga, when that ship was torpedoed by a German submarine off the coast of Cornwall in July 1918. British troops were soon on the scene and managed to rescue all aboard, but the personal effects of Smith were lost, along with those of about 5,000 other Australian soldiers who had died on the Western Front. Smith's nephew, Private James Alfred Smith of the 53rd Battalion, also served in the AIF. He was struck by shrapnel near Amiens and died of his wounds only 2 days before Robert's death. He was buried in the same cemetery as his uncle. Private Robert Alexander Smith is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. In the photograph displayed today by the Pool of Reflection, Private Robert Alexander Smith can be seen standing on the left of the image. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Robert Alexander Smith, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If you are able, please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.